I forget a little bit of it.
The quote or whatever.
Yeah.
They got like 50 grams of protein. I'm dying.
People probably it's just so funny.
I was recording. I could leave that in there.
Oh, my butthole. Ow.
Again.
Time for a little butterscotch.
Oh.
Oh my God.
Grandpa's old
Okay,
cough
I hope
medicine.
none of what we just said is in the episode.
It might.
Please, we shouldn't do that. But if it is, guys,
It'll just
we're
be
fucking around.
4 minutes of a bleep.
Have you guys watched Ted Lasso?
Nope.
I've never seen it. I've been wanting to watch it. I haven't seen it.
It's so good. April told me about it a while ago, months ago, and then Sam and I were just like, let's watch Ted Lasso. We finished all of the first season last night. It's good. It's
I got to check it out.
Apple TV. You have Apple TV.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. But let me ask you this, guys. We got this comment from somebody. It's very interesting. Do you think you guys are doing something every single day to improve?
I believe so. Yeah, I would say. I would say at least I believe that I'm doing something every day to improve. Some of it's the same stuff from the day before, but yeah.
All right.
Yeah, I'd echo the same thing. Something I believe that I am doing is going to, make me a better person.
Okay. This comment was on a video we did reacting to a guy named Iman Gadzi. Oh, and I just lost the comment, but it'll be back here. And I think this is really interesting. Can y'all do an episode on the dangers of self-improvement? I feel like there's so much solid advice on this channel. It feels like every day is a failure if you don't capitalize on all the awesome stuff you guys recommend. Any ideas on how to approach self-improvement with longevity?
Thank you so much for that comment, G Money.
G Money.
Appreciate it. And, guys, keep the comments flowing. They can be really helpful. In this case, they can give us something to do for a show. I think when it comes to self-improvement, it does seem like there's so many different things that so many different like rabbit holes you can go down, so many different things you can work on and work towards. It can feel really overwhelming at times.
Yeah. And I think another thing too is, definitely when you were a kid, but when I was younger, to improve, you just, you do whatever you do, but I wasn't constantly always seeing all the cool stuff that everybody else was doing, how far on they were in life versus myself, how much more progress they were making, how much more money they were making, the hot girlfriend or whatever. It's like all these things you're seeing on a daily basis, seeing every single day if you're on social media. So sometimes can make you feel like you're not doing shit or you're not progressing fast enough.
How many times have you been in jiu-jitsu rolling with somebody and you're noticing different things that are going on social media?
Okay, good.
I think, I know it's like an old guy message, like put the phone down, type thing. But in order to get past this, in order to have an area of self-improvement, you have to be working on yourself.
Yes.
You got to spend a lot of time doing things where I would imagine that you don't necessarily have the phone with you, although you could be listening to podcasts and you could have forms of self-improvement through some of that. There's going to be times where you have to go and run, or times where you have to go and do jujitsu, or times where you have to lift. Again, you could be listening to outside influences during that time and learning and doubling down. These are all things that all of us have kind of done. But you're going to find the most success the more locked in you get into the thing it is that you're trying to actually do, or the thing that you're trying to actually become good at. And so I think one of the best ways to handle this, there's so much information coming at you for self-improvement. Start to pick and choose the things that you want to be proficient at, and have those be your North Star. Like, I want to get good at this. I want to get really good at skiing. And so that means, you know what? I'm overweight and like I'm not really I need to train my legs more because I want to go on, these trails that are going to take more skill, and my knees are shitty and I got to do the knees over toes stuff, and I have to take care of my body better. I think if you can give yourself like an overarching theme of what it is you'd like to do, then you can start to fill in the X, Y, and Z on how much self-improvement stuff you do and what are those things that you're going to pick for self-improvement.
How do you keep that in check though? First thing that comes to mind is like, I'm skinny. I want to develop muscle. I'm going to start hitting the gym. And then the second that you miss a day in the gym, you want to shoot yourself because, just kind of like I think what the comment was getting at is you start feeling guilty, like, oh, I'm not going towards my goal anymore. I'm such a bitch. Like everyone else is getting stronger and bigger without me.
Yeah, it takes time, and the workouts are only as good as the recovery. So a missed workout might be a productive thing here and there. So you can kind of have a reinterpretation. I think one of the things that's been transformative for me is to change my expectations. I don't want to necessarily say that I don't have any expectations, because I certainly have expectations for certain things. However, I have found that 100% of the time when my expectations are not met, it's what oftentimes causes me to be thrown off of my mood. It's oftentimes something that will make me angry. You know, you expect your stove to work when you flip the thing on. You have an expectation of how this thing's going to work, how your food's going to heat up, and you go to tick the thing and like your gas is out or something. Like I've had shit like this happen before. And then now you're frustrated because you had an expectation of that thing. But in your own self-improvement and where you're trying to end up and where you're trying to land in your life, I think you have to be really careful of the expectations that you have of yourself. And you do want a standard. Like it'd be nice to have some good standards. So I'm going to go to jiu-jitsu. I'm going to get my ass kicked. I'm going to get beat up a lot. But you know what I'm going to do? I'm going to do my best to always be friendly. I'm going to do my best to be in the best mood that I can be in. I'm going to do the best I can handle to be sportsmanlike and not be pissed at the other guy and not get mad and like throw something at the guy or whatever. Like there's other things that could be in your control that you have standards for, but your expectations should be, I've never done jiu-jitsu before. I'm probably going to get my ass kicked.
And another thing is just approaching all the things that you're trying to do as far as improvement with longevity in mind. And currently right now we're talking about physical things like jiu-jitsu, the gym. But I was doing an open mat yesterday and I saw this guy that was rolling, right? He had he had like a blue top on, he was rolling nogi, and I was watching him move. I'm like, wow, this guy is good. And then I asked the guy, how long has he been rolling? And the guy said 1.5 years. I was like, oh shit. Is he a former wrestler? Was he a former grappler? He's like, nope. He's just been in here 6-7 days a week and everyone's been supporting him and being super supportive. And he just has been going, and he looks like a guy who's been rolling for at least 4 years, but he's been only 1.5 years in. Now, one thing though is like when somebody goes so hard at something for a while, I'm not saying you shouldn't go hard, but it's very easy to get burnt out. Because when you go so hard and you go, some people just like get tired of it. Some people get themselves hurt. And one thing is, if you want to have longevity in mind, go as much as you feel you can. If you want to go more so you can improve faster, do that. But keep in mind, look for signs of like, okay, I should slow down, or I should just go a little bit less intense today. Because like when I look at jiu-jitsu or when I look at anything we do, I want to do a lot of this stuff till the day I die. I don't want to just do it for the next 5 years or 10 years. I want to do this until I'm 80, 90. I want to do this when I'm dead. So think about it that way, right? Everything. Think about it that way.
Hey, us stars don't shine, we burn. That's what I've been saying nonstop, because I started going to jiu-jitsu pretty hard. I'm like, no, I'm fine. I'm like, this rib thing, it's kind of nagging, but it's like, I'm fine. Until I wasn't fine. So that's what I was joking, saying that I burnt out so fast. But one thing that helped me with the gym was just like the perspective change, because I would see like a day off as like, oh, I'm getting weaker, I'm getting smaller. Now I look at it as way different. You know, again, like Mark said, like your workouts are only as good as your recovery. So I get pretty pumped for a recovery day these days, because like I know when I come back, I'm making way more progress.
I think a lot of people years ago, when they would get like compromised and somebody would threaten them, they would go and they would lift. And they were like, this would be a nice defense. I'm going to make myself a little bigger.
Yes.
And now we know that you can do other things, like you can learn jiu-jitsu, which would be a faster route to be able to protect yourself better, or some wrestling or something like that would be something that would actually make more sense. Lifting weights.
But they won't push me if they see these muscles, man. They see these muscles, they won't fuck with me.
And that is definitely a possibility.
It helps.
My point in mentioning this is that maybe the things that you're choosing to do, maybe they're not that effective in your pursuit. So if you if you're trying to develop these habits of self-improvement and you want to get better and you want to advance, what is it that you want to advance? What is it that you want to get better? I want to be like ripped and rich, or, whatever these things are. You're going to have to play the long game. You're going to have everything take some time. You're going to, okay, I want to be ripped. All right, well, we better learn a lot about diet. Let me stop following all these people that make fucking cupcakes and brownies and cookies, and let me start following Lane Norton and Andrew Huberman and some of these other people that share some good scientific information where I can really learn. Let me check out some YouTube stuff and learn on there. Okay, you want to be rich. Rich in what? What do you want to be proficient in? Because the only way to get rich, in my opinion, is to be a material expert in something. So that way you can provide a lot of value for people. You're either like an inventor or you're like a material expert in something. There's not a ton of other options that kind of happen from there. That's kind of what we got. What is it that you want to be good at? What would you like to learn? Would you like to learn the X's and O's of business? Would you like to learn back end stuff of business? Do you want to be a in the trenches CEO? Do you want to be a somebody that handles a lot of the money side of things within a company? Like, you want to own your own company? These are all things you got to kind of put your mind towards. And there's a lot to think about there, especially if you're only like 19 and you're listening to the show. You're like, oh my God, what the fuck? Mm-hmm. There's a lot of stuff to think about right there. But like, what are you already pretty good at? What are things that you can maybe monetize now? What's your current situation with your physique? Could you go to the gym a little bit more than what you're doing now? Or would it be unreasonable? Are you going 4 days a week and you're a college kid? Maybe you don't have time to do any more than that right now. So I think you try to hone in on the things that you want to pursue and the things that you want to do. And that will start to tick down the amount of like self-improvement shit that you need to do. But the number one thing that needs to jump to the front of the line is, what's the most important thing? What's the jujitsu of this thing that I can learn that will allow me to defend myself the quickest, that will allow me to be proficient in this particular area that I want to get better at?
Yeah, that is one thing. Like, even though we do talk about time, the Pareto principle is a thing. Like, there are within lifting or within jiu-jitsu, there's certain things that can allow you to become very proficient very quickly. And then you can start working out a lot of the little details. So within anything you're trying to do, whether you're trying to like learn real estate so you become a real estate agent, or, whatever job it is, try to figure out the things that are going to increase your knowledge level the fastest initially. And then you can start worrying about a lot of the details. But even though that's a fast thing, you were talking about becoming a material expert. If you're young or if you're new at something, understand that if this is something you want to do for a while, it's going to take you time to become an expert. When it comes to lifting and the gym and stuff, we're coming back to this because this is something that we've had in our lives for a long time. Like, you started when you were a teenager and you got experience really young, mm-hmm. and you were just delved into that lifestyle. Now you've had more than 2 decades in terms of fitness. Mm-hmm. I was able to luckily start lifting in the gym stuff when I was 13. And then I started like working with people when I was like 20. So there's been a long time, and we've been lucky enough to be able to have a long time doing this, so that, yeah, at this point, even though we're continuing to learn more, there are aspects of this where we are experts. But that happened with time, practice, putting things to practice, our personal experience, and then putting that with other people. And you need to give yourself time to do that, time to learn that. You can't get around that, because like nowadays and I think this has always been a thing, but nowadays, just because there's so much content and people making content and things, there feels like there's a race to try to be the expert the fastest, or put things out now and get those results now, when you got to give yourself time to learn and experience.
Mm-hmm. It's kind of a cool challenge too, to think about, okay, that guy might be able to beat me from point A to point B, but what about if we go all the way to Z? Where is he at? You get halfway through the alphabet and he's not there anymore. And the other guy's not there, and the other guy's not there, and the other person ain't there. And you keep surviving, you keep hanging in there, because doing stuff for a really long time, it will be encouraging. The better that you get at something, you'll want to probably pursue it longer. You start to get good at it, and you start to hear from other people that you're good at it. Maybe you're not even great yet, but you start to hear from other people like, wow, that was pretty cool. I can't believe you did that. That's awesome. Helps you build confidence. You start to feel better and better. All the way to the point where we've had some extraordinary athletes in the gym over the years, but having someone like Eric Spoto come into the gym who was benching 675 pounds for like 3 reps back in the day, like just like an animal. And it took other people to say, hey, do you know that's like world record weight? Do you understand that that's like world record weight, and you should probably go to a powerlifting meet? He's like, yeah, I kind of know, but I don't know. He liked the training so much. But again, that guy spent a lot of time working on himself, honing in on this craft, all the way to the point where he was kind of oblivious to what was going on in the outside world. He happened to become like one of the best in the world at it. I know that's a really extreme example, but I think that for a couple years, your head should be down. You should be taking step after step. And eventually you'll pick your head up and you'll kind of see there's some people saying like, hey, good job. They're clapping their hands. There might have some haters too, saying you're never going to make it. But you're probably going to have people saying, hey, good job. And you're going to be like, you talking to me? Like, I didn't know. Oh, okay, cool.
Talking to me?
Cool.
You talking to me?
Yeah. You might have somebody kind of saying that to you, and you might not think what you're doing is much, but it could be simply because you had consistency with it. Now, I think on the other side of that, which is the main question here, is like, how do you not get disappointed in yourself for not following through on these things? Again, I think you probably have to cut out some of it, like stop reading self-help books. Like I'll give you my self-help tip of the day. Don't listen to any more self-help stuff. Go do something, including this podcast. Go run outside. Go do something, because you have to be working on yourself. And I think it's one of the most important things for young men at this time, at this stage of the world, is for a lot of, at least in America, for a lot of young men to spend time working on themselves. Make yourself into something. Make yourself into someone that you feel great about. Make yourself into someone that you feel valuable about. Don't really worry about the other people thinking whether you're valuable or whatever. Just work on what you think is valuable for now. Over time, hopefully that turns into like a commodity at some point.
Pat Project family, how's it going? Now, we talk about meat a lot on this podcast, which is why we've partnered with Piedmontese and have for years now, because they have some of the best beef on the planet. All right, Piedmontese beef has cuts that are fattier in terms of their ribeyes, and they have also cuts that are leaner in terms of their flat irons, but you can get cuts for no matter what diet you're on. Andrew, how can they get their hands on it?
Yeah, head over to Piedmontese.com. That's Piedmontese.com. And at checkout, enter promo code POWER for 25% off your entire order. And if your order is $150 or more, you get free 2-day shipping. Links to them down in the description, as well as the podcast show notes.
That's also kind of falls into what Andrew is mentioning. And this is, you talk about it all the time too, the reinterpretation of your failure. Like, let's say you didn't go to the gym, or let's say that there is a day you're trying to learn something, but you didn't spend any time working on it or any time learning it. That's where I think sometimes it's good to set up like low-hanging fruit for things. So if you're someone who's trying to read more, rather than saying, okay, I'm going to read 20 or 30 pages of a book every day, just try to, at minimum, get a page in. Be like, okay, I'm at least going to get a page in, especially if it's something you've never done or a habit you haven't built. Because you'll probably read a page and then you'll probably read a bit more. But if every day you just have the intention of, okay, I'm just going to read a page, right? You'll do more than that. Same thing with your fitness in the gym. Because it doesn't even have to be the gym. If for some reason you couldn't make it to the gym, could you at least try to say, okay, I'm going to at least do 30 push-ups and I'm going to do a walk. That's my minimum each day, 30 push-ups and a walk. And if I do more than that, awesome. But if I just do that, cool. Because when you're able to set up this low-hanging fruit, there's always wins that are already set up, right? Even if you set up just to make sure you get a walk in the morning. And if you're someone, again, who hasn't been as physical before, that is something that pushes you in the direction of doing more. And if something happens on a day and just things got offline, but you still got in those minimums, at least you still did something that is at least pushing you a little bit little bit in the direction that you're trying to head in, versus setting up these grand goals that you need to do every day, but then you have multiple days in a row of not hitting any of those. Then you do feel like you're a fucking failure, right?
And you could look up, something from someone like James Clear, like Atomic Habits.
Oh yeah.
That could be, I was mentioning earlier, trying to find the main thing that's going to get you to the next level. Maybe currently you don't have great habits. Maybe you can kind of admit to yourself that you don't feel like you're organized. You're behind on stuff. You don't really do things on time. You don't have a lot of consistency in your life. Well, then go and get that book. Whatever the weakness is that you have, you can also just YouTube it. You can look it up. You don't have to pay for anything. You could just look a lot of these things up on your phone. I think also too, I think it's important to just not beat yourself up. Like, it's the long game. There's a lot to work on every day. The person I was when I was 20 is not the same as I am today. And the person I was when I was 10 is not the same person I am. I'm a similar person, but you make a lot of changes. When I was a kid, I was really, really reserved. I still kind of am sometimes in certain settings. Wasn't really confident. I also wasn't like a weird kid off on his own, because I had two older brothers that, kind of made me a little bit social. But yeah, it was just way different. I was way different. Like in sports or something, I wasn't going to be real assertive. I wasn't going to try to do something. I wasn't going to do anything that was going to make me look foolish. I wasn't going to do anything. If it was within my wheelhouse, then I might do it. But later on, I turned into someone that got really good at a sport, powerlifting, if you want to call it a sport. I got really good at a hobby, powerlifting. Built up a lot of strength, and you see the videos of me getting fired up and like doing the lifts and stuff. That took a long time to end up being that confident and feeling good enough to like even let out a bunch of noise before I went and did a lift, because the attention and stuff felt weird. But after I did it for a while, I recognized I kind of like this attention for just a couple seconds, because I worked really hard for this moment, for this particular lift. And if I can get people's attention, I can also pick off their energy a bit. And if I can get their energy, I can probably make this lift. If they're fucking fired up, I'm going to be fired up too. And hopefully everyone gets pumped, and then hopefully I make it. Sometimes it worked, sometimes it didn't.
I don't remember the exact numbers, and this is going to be a hard question to even answer, but like in Atomic Habits, he had mentioned about like getting like 1% better. And like at the end of the year, you end up being, I'm just throwing random numbers out, but like 15% better at whatever it is that you're trying to do. But if you don't attempt that 1%, you end up being like 25% worse or some shit like that. I know the numbers are like way off, but I'm having a hard time even thinking, yeah, there's that book right there. Buy it. Like, what's an example if somebody is striving to get better at bench pressing or get better physique or something? Like, what's an example of something that would not push them in the right direction? Again, in my head, I'm having a hard time even thinking about it, but there are people that are not progressing right now. So what are some things that they need to wake up and maybe stop doing?
You were talking about specifically the bench press?
No, I'm just saying in general. I just threw out an example. Like, I guess just anything that they're trying to improve.
I think one thing that's kind of odd, but it's like it's doing that thing way too much. We mentioned it with the burnout, right? But like, I mean, if you're doing something and you're just spending hours and hours and hours on it, sometimes it's just like you will lose focus because you're just spending too much time doing the same thing. This is especially within some things that are physical, like because your body, you only have so much you can do well, whereas you get fatigued. Mentally, it's different. Mentally, like you can read certain things every single day, and you can learn about certain things. But even with that, it's like if you don't ever give yourself time to kind of like away from it so it can like soak in and you can remember or you can get better at it, then sometimes you're just beating it too much. So going too hard,
I would say beating it too much, probably another thing.
Yeah, going too hard sometimes is not beneficial because again, you need to give yourself time to let those things cement.
I think again, people just the expectations sometimes are high. on what it is that you're going to do, but you're not giving yourself enough time. You're not going to be good at something when you first try it. You're just not going to be that good at it. You might be better than the next person, or you might be improving or something like that, but you're not going to be like really proficient at it. It's going to take time for you to kind of hone your skill, and it's going to take time for you to have self-improvement, like marked self-improvement, to where you clearly made some gains. And when it comes to something like lifting or running, these things that are physical, people are trying too hard. They are doing it too often. The frequency is too high. The intensity is too high. And it needs to be backed off a lot. And you have to really like learn your trade. You have to take a lot of time in learning your trade. And you don't even know the impact of half of the shit that you're even thinking about. So like, let's say you're all fired up and you got this bench program and you're going to work on getting better. You don't know the results of the way that you just lifted until months later or weeks later. Sometimes the fact that you slipped taking the garbage out and fucked up your ankle and just decided, fuck it, I'm not going to the gym on that day, that might have saved you from like hurting your shoulder or messing up your pec or something like that. Like, you don't know what the implications of that are yet. You don't know what that looks like. You don't know what it yet looks like. What happens when you gain 10 pounds? What happens when you really hone in and focus? Oh, I heard that, if I want to get stronger, one of the fastest ways to get there is for me to gain some weight. Well, let me see what happens when I gain some weight. And you maybe take your time to gain weight so you don't just gain a bunch of body fat and end up having to try to get rid of that body fat after you hit some of your strength goals. We don't know the implications of the things that we're trying to work towards right now. We don't know how they're going to benefit us in the future. You don't know how an injury or a setback could be the thing that launches you forward in a much faster direction than you ever thought before. A breakup, a broken bone, a fall, or whatever. All these things can be things that launch you into the future. They can be things. Look at the David Goggins. Like just tortured as a child. Later on in life, he's able to take a lot of those things that happen to him, and he's able to go deeper and harder on everything, on a lot of things that most people can't push themselves to. So he took a tragedy and turned it into something that basically turned into a career. Because when he goes out and runs, he talks about it being suffering. He talks about it bringing out all these emotions in him. And he's kind of almost in some wacky way, like reliving a lot of that when he goes and he runs. But he's turned that into something he's really proficient at. He's, arguably like one of the toughest guys in the world when it comes to that mental toughness. So even though that's a horrible example in a lot of ways, we don't know the impact of the things that are happening to us, good or bad, on how good or bad they're going to be. If you're fucking amazing at something right away, sometimes that means you're going to be shitty at it in 5 years. Sometimes it means you're going to bow out of it and back out of it and not even care. I know a lot of people that are like really good at like art and music and stuff, and they don't even play or do it anymore. I'm like, why? I don't understand. You're so good at that. What happened? Why come you're not? I understand like if the passion's not there or something, but it's kind of crazy. Like you're like, man, that's such a cool skill set. If I could fucking draw, I would draw all the time. I think I can't draw for shit. So I think these things they take a lot of time, but we don't have any idea what the impact of what's happening like today or tomorrow is going to really be.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think one thing, especially when it comes to like Goggins, is he does a really good job at taking things that would cause most people to be like, fuck that, I'm done. And he's also learned to reinterpret those things. For example, frustration. Being frustrated with something that like you're trying to learn or something new is for some people a cue that that's not for me or that's not something I want to learn. But what you kind of want to do is you want to take these things that are typically things that would make you stop and maybe turn that into, okay, this is why I'm doing this. It's frustrating right now. It won't be frustrating forever. So I'm going to continue trying every day to pick away at this. So it becomes something I can do easier, something I can do better. Being frustrated with things, I don't care about being embarrassed. And when I say embarrassed, like I don't care whether I'm bad at something initially or people think I'm not intelligent with a specific topic initially, because it's something that can be learned. But not caring about being embarrassed about your lack of knowledge will allow you to learn something over time, have that white belt mentality about it, meaning you can go and you can ask people questions and be okay with not like an example is within jiu-jitsu. I'll always ask questions when he's showing something, right? I don't care if people around don't think I understand it, because usually sometimes something will be explained in the class and be like, does anybody have any questions? And no one asks questions. But then when people are doing the technique, everyone's fucking it up because no one chose to ask the fucking question, right? So ask a question if you don't understand. Don't be embarrassed because of your lack of knowledge, because you'll be able to overcome that. But these things that are typically, aspects of learning something new or learning something you're trying to get good at, if you can be okay with those hurdles and understand that that is part of your process, you will become an expert at it over time.
I think another critical thing is to have confidence, so mentioning like not being embarrassed, how do you get yourself to some of those stages? Well, you probably have to have at least a little momentum when it comes to self-improvement. So, what are the things you're good at now? You're probably pretty good. You're probably pretty good at some stuff. You're just probably not giving yourself credit. I'd say number one, you're probably a little too hard on yourself. The expectations thing is huge. And regardless of how little time you think you have, or regardless of people saying life is short and this and that, all this stuff, it takes a really long time. Like it takes decades. It takes decades to be good at something. Ask someone that's been doing jiu-jitsu for 10 years and they'll tell you, they're like, yeah, I still have a lot to learn. You're like, damn. Ask someone that went to medical school. Ask a practicing doctor who, went to school for 6 or 8 years and they've been practicing for 6 or 8 years. Ask, Gabrielle Lyon, someone that's, ask some of these people that have this high level of proficiency and they would say, yeah, I still have a lot to learn. I still have I still need to grow a lot in these areas. There's still so much that I don't know. So it's going to take you a tremendous amount of time. If it took those people a long time and they already know a lot, if it took those people a long time to learn what they've learned, it's going to take you a long time. Don't be disheartened by that. Understand that it's going to be a process and that it's going to take time. You'll hear people say like, or you'll see stuff on the internet of somebody being successful in this thing or that thing. And that can maybe be, that in no way should be hurtful to you. It's unrelated to you. It's a completely different topic. It's a completely different subject. It's a completely different person. There's no reason to waste your jealousy in that spot. So rather than being frustrated, this is from Jim Rohn, be fascinated. Rather than being like, how did they get that car, that motherfucker? Say, holy shit, that's really interesting. How did he get that car? Maybe I should DM him. Or maybe I know someone that knows him that might know. What did he do? Oh, he sold online training and then he turned it into a whatever the hell it might be. And maybe from that process, you're going to start to learn a skill. But you can't have these things hurt you just because you're not advancing every day. It's not really realistic to advance every day.
Yeah.
You might feel like you're advancing every day, but it's like, it'll happen here and there. You'll get PRs here and there. If you try a bunch of new shit all the time, you'll get PRs all the time. But after a while, your luck is going to run out. After a while, you're going to go to jiu-jitsu practice, or you're going to power lift, or you're going to learn this new thing. And you're going to leave there in a fucking bucket of tears. You're going to be crying. You're going to be like, fuck, man, I don't know. You're going to feel defeated, and you're going to say stuff that you probably shouldn't say. You're going to say self-defeating things. You can work on that, and you can know that ahead of time and say, you know what? I didn't get it today, but I'm going to come back tomorrow. And I'm going to come back the next day. And I'm going to come back the next day. And I'm going to keep showing up. And eventually, I'll be able to fucking destroy that guy, hopefully. But I think that we let the comparison be the thief of joy. And we let the world really Well, it's our own fault. We let our own interpretations beat us up because we didn't follow through on a particular thing. So fucking what? You didn't follow through on it. Maybe it's not for you yet. Maybe you're not that interested in it. I say it all the time. If you're interested in it, you'll find yourself doing it. If you're interested in cleaning out your closet, your closet will probably be clean. If you're not that interested, it'll probably be messy like mine. The things that you're interested in are probably going to be the places where you spend more time. As you build more confidence in those places, and as you get better at those things, you're going to probably notice that you're going to want to spend more time there because it makes you feel better and better.
Power Project family, how's it going? Now, we talk about sleep all the time on the podcast because it's one of the biggest things that helps you with your health and fitness, your recovery, your muscle gain, your fat loss, everything. That's why we've partnered with 8 Sleep for such a long time now, because the technology behind the mattress allows you to track your heart rate, the amount of times it takes you to fall asleep, your tosses and turns, your heart rate variability. It changes its temperature through the night based off how you sleep, but not only yourself, but maybe your partner on the other side of the bed. It is an amazing mattress. Andrew, how can they learn more?
Yes, head over to 8sleep.com/powerproject. That's 8 spelled out, EIGHT, sleep.com/powerproject. Along with more information, you guys will actually save $150 off of your entire order automatically. Links to them down in the description as well as the podcast show notes.
See if you can play this clip from Tony Robbins, because I think this is very relevant to today's topic. This is pretty wild.
What makes you hate yourself? Is it the red shoes?
What?
Is it the red shoes?
No.
Are you sure? Because they're fucking red. Don't you be smiling like that. You'll fuck everything up. So you smile like that too much, you'll want to stick around. You're so hard on yourself. I love that you have such high standards. Those aren't high standards. That's called perfection. And most people overestimate what they can do in a year, and they underestimate what they can do in 2 or 3 decades. And you haven't been around long enough to have those extra 2 or 3 decades. So don't fuck it up. There's time. And if you give yourself just a little bit of time, and if you be a little more loving to yourself, I think you're going to find you got a lot to give.
Man, that was amazing. That was super powerful. And I think that's a lot of what we're talking about here today. You know, people trying to be perfect. It ain't going to happen. It never has happened. It never will happen. Your expectations are a little too high. Lower them a bit. You can still keep the standards high. You can still say, well, I want to develop some consistency with that, and I'd like to be able to follow through on these 2 or 3 other things. But to think that it's going to turn out perfectly all the time, it's not real life. It's not the real world. And I think that in that situation, that guy was making himself feel worse about situations, that if he could develop a different perspective, which may be really hard for that individual, but if he could develop a different perspective, he could probably see things slightly differently to where he didn't feel as bad about himself. And Tony Robbins did a good job of saying, like, why'd you hate yourself? Is it your red shoes? Because he's pointing out to, like, we can make up any reason why you don't like yourself. Because it sounds like you're making up a lot of bullshit reasons right now why you hate yourself. You're expecting yourself to, like, be really good at a bunch of this stuff right now, and you haven't given yourself a couple of decades. Tony Robbins is speaking from a place of, he's somebody that learned from Jim Rohn. He's somebody that had great mentors. He's somebody that has been in rough spots in his life. And he's somebody that is a personal development guru who understands that this stuff takes time, whether you're Tony Robbins himself or whether you're anybody else.
And then also, like, actually, before I was going to mention something else, but I want to go back to the low expectations thing, because, you know, we've been mentioning that, like, how you want to have low hanging fruit, right, for what you can do right now. But I think, because, like, with my goals, I have high expectations for my long-term goals, high ideals, right? But I know that right now, I'm not there yet, or I'm not at that skill level yet, but I do have those high expectations. So, I mean, how do we phrase that? To have grace with yourself right now, and maybe give yourself the time to suck and slowly progress, but have high expectations for yourself? I'm wondering, like, what do you think about that?
Yeah, this is some Sadhguru stuff. You're going to have to listen to some of him. But
Yeah.
I think at some point you'll have to realize that you'll have to be strong enough to understand that you're enough right now. And I know that that's like, well, people, get teary-eyed kind of over stuff like that. But you really do. Like you're doing are you doing the best you can? Like, are you putting in a good effort? Can you be honest with yourself? Are you putting in a good effort? Like, it doesn't have to be a 10 out of 10, because again, that's not realistic. But each day towards your goals, are you a 6 or a 7? If you're like a 3 or a 4, you're not allowed to complain. You're not sweating. You're not allowed to talk about, that you're frustrated, that you're not losing weight, because you're not doing the work. So if you're, you can think about this stuff in these different areas that you're working on. What's your work rate look like? You don't have to be a crazy person. You don't have to, although you can develop into that, but I don't recommend that, because that's not going to really bring you happiness either. You are where you are who you are, and you are working on it. If you're fat and you're in the gym, you're fucking working on it.
Yep.
You don't have to just think, I'm fat and I'm fat forever and I'm this and then you have X, Y, and Z associated with you forever. Like, no, I'm working on it. You think you're dumb, but you're looking into, you're reading certain books, you're listening to certain podcasts, you're trying to enhance. Maybe I'm not as smart as that guy or that guy over there. Probably shouldn't be comparing myself to anybody either, but at least I'm working on it. Fucking working on it. You should be able to feel good enough about yourself if you are working on it. If you're not working on it, then I would suggest that you start.
Yeah.
Because if you're not working on it, I don't think it's actually really problematic. I think you can go through this life whatever way you'd like to go through it. However, when you start to run into symptoms and you start to run into problems need solutions, because problems are going to hurt and they're going to drag you down and they're going to cause pain, and they're going to most likely not only hurt you, but probably negatively impact the people around you. So those are things that need to be addressed over time. So if there's things that you're not getting to, you're not getting around, and you keep pushing it off and pushing it off and pushing it off, but you know that you want to be better than that, now is the time where you start to work on yourself. You start to distance yourself from the distractions. There's so many distractions out there right now. Are you going to come to me at a seminar? Are you going to come to me at a trade show and have tears in your eyes about how you're upset that you're not fulfilling the things that you want to do? I think that's totally fine to have as many tears in your eyes as you want. I'll fucking cry with you if you're putting up a 7 or an 8. But if you're not really working towards it, then you're just lying to yourself. And you're making me cry with you for no fucking reason, because you're not actually doing the work. You have to be doing the work. It doesn't matter what self-help book you listen to or what guru you listen to. They all say the same fucking thing. You can listen to David Goggins. You can listen to Cam Hanes. You can fire up whatever motivational video that you want. They all say the same thing. You have to do your work. Period.
Dude, it really is that simple. I remember, because I still have some of the, I like, for example, Goggins' book Never Finished. I'm still listening to that periodically, but I don't approach these books with like, oh, okay, this one's going to have it. I remember when I was younger, there's a lot of things I was searching for as far as development. One of the aspects was like, I was raised by my mom. So there's an aspect of me that felt that I was missing something. So that's why I was seeking so much. But whenever I'd get one of those new books in my early 20s, I'd be like, this one's going to have it. Like, this one's going to have something that's going to move me towards that next level. And maybe I learned something, but there was a big aspect of like reading it, feeling a bit motivated, taking some action, and slowing down. And just not being as consistent as I knew I should be or knew I could be. And there was a certain point where that shifted, where, I mean, I was still doing things to learn more, but I was taking consistent action, just consistently doing the things I know I needed to do. And that's big, because people can get, and as I've been, caught in that self-development rabbit hole of consistently seeking, consistently watching.
Conveyor belt.
Consistently watching those videos that'll give you this new tidbit or this new clue, reading a book that'll give you this new thing. And it's just like, at some point, you've heard it all said in a bunch of different ways, which is literally what you just said. And there's a lot of ways to make taking consistent action a simpler process. But at the end of the day, it's just, are you interested in something? Cool. Can you find the information to learn that thing? Cool. Can you take consistent action towards that goal and just do that over a long ass period of time? If you can, you're set.
And some people, I think you may have found this to be true for you. Some people don't need self-help books. They need mentors, or they might need a therapist. Like they might need to go get help. Like the shit that happened to you when you were a kid, or whatever it is you're dealing with, you were made fun of, you were teased, you were bullied, whatever you were, you grew up without a dad, whatever your situation is, you might have to look further beyond that, because you might be trying to be a success. So it's a distraction from some other shit that's going on. So don't be afraid of these things, and be open-minded, as we talk about all the time, to figuring out, how can I really arm myself to be the best that I can be, to be more powerful, to be stronger, because maybe reading a book from James Clear or David Goggins or whomever it is that is trying to make these tasks easier for you, maybe that will get you to kind of like the next level, but maybe it's not going to solve anything for you, because ultimately you're trying to be more successful, I think, because you're looking for some sort of fulfillment. So that's cool if that fulfills that hole, right? That's you kind of shovel some dirt into that fulfillment area. That's nice. But if there's other areas that don't feel fulfilled, you might have to seek some stuff out elsewhere in a mentor or therapist or something like that.
Yeah. To answer your question, Nsima, about like, okay, go for the low-hanging fruit, but expect way more. For myself, I called it just getting base hits. You know, just get on base. Don't worry about hitting a home run. So that's the approach I took with photography. You know, I was like, okay, let me check off the boxes of the stuff that I need to deliver, capture, whatever it may be. First thing that comes to mind was we were at NorCal CrossFit. I think that's what it was called, with Khalipa and the whole NorCal CrossFit team that was going to the fucking CrossFit Games. And then here I am, you know, commanding the whole team plus Mark and Jason Khalipa for pictures. Like that's a scary thing, you know? And, you know, me, I'm not the most loudest person in the room, but I'm like having to yell and tell people like what to do. So that was the home run, was the big ass group shot. Like that was tough. But the other stuff, like the having them do whatever movements in, you know, slingshot, knee sleeves and stuff, those were the base hits. And I'm like, all right, cool, I got it. Like you know, Mark's going to be happy with these pictures. These are going to go up on a website somewhere. Like we got the base hits. Yeah. Let's go for this home run. If I missed the home run, damn, I expected a lot, but I got what I needed to do, and it's okay if I missed it. Now, thankfully, I got it, but that's how I was able to kind of have high expectations for myself. And being somebody that wasn't the most confident person in the room, I knew that if I got those base hits, that I was good. But then I still had the capacity to try to go for that home run, and I hit it more oftentimes than not. But sometimes I wouldn't, and that was okay because I got those base hits. Yeah,
Well said.
I think this kind of falls in line with some of the stuff we're saying right now, because again, when it comes to all this stuff, you're typically seeking info. And I sent both of you guys this quote. We can talk about it later, but I think it fits in. It's from the Creative Act by, what's his fucking name? Rick Rubin.
Rick Rubin.
And I was reading this, and I think it's funny because it has a bunch of things that are kind of like catchphrases of the podcast. Yeah. An integral part of the artist's work is deciphering these signals. The more open you are, the more clues you will find, and the less effort you'll need to exert. You may be able to think less and begin to rely on answers arising within you.
Hey now.
You know, and the
Fire.
thing, and this is the thing, because you're on your own path. You're doing the things that are interesting to you, and you should keep doing that and keep that in mind when sometimes you might be scrolling through and you see somebody that you look up to doing some really awesome shit. Maybe they're younger than you, but remember, you're on your own path, and just allow yourself to delve down the things that you find interest in. 7 years ago, when I started doing jujitsu, I personally didn't see anybody in the powerlifting or strength, whatever sphere doing it. But when I saw it, when I went to those mats and I was like, I know I want to do this. There wasn't anybody doing it at that time, but I'm so thankful I did at this point because it's something that is a big part of my life. And it's just because I was interested in it. And that was something that was my path. So if there's something that you actually want to try out or you want to dive into, even if it's not popular at the time or it's not trendy or it just seems different, just don't think about it. Just go into it, allow yourself to get good, give yourself the time, and it'll yield some type of fruit over time.
Yeah, I've talked about it before, underhand pitches, you got things that are just nice, low-hanging fruit, the base hit. You got things that are going to be simple for you to actually complete and actually follow through with. I think trying to develop a habit where you do something every day. I think Gabrielle Lyon more recently has this group, and the group is supposed to eat like basically a gram of protein per pound of body weight every day. It's like part of the little checklist. It could be as simple as like you have a serving of fruit a day. Remember we did the asterisk on the calendar. You make the X and you did this for the day. Oh, I lifted for today. I did cardio for today, or I lifted and I do jiu-jitsu, and you mark down the things that you want to try to accomplish every day. What's realistic for you to do every day? Don't put jiu-jitsu if you don't think you can do it every day. Don't put lifting if you don't think you can do it every day, because that's going to have an expectation set too high that you're not actually going to follow through with, that you're not actually going to reach. I want to be on this diet, okay, for how long? For when does the diet end? Is there any reprieve? Is there a cheat meal? Is there a time to go out? What does it look like? Are we on this thing for 3 months, or like how long is this ride going to last? Because if I told you, hey, we're going to go run, if you have any proficiency with running, you would say, okay. But then your next question would be like, where are we going? How far are we going? How long are we going? And if I just said, we're just going to run as fast as we can for as long as we can, you'd be like, nope, I'm not going to do it. So you want to think about some of these things, some of these goals, some of these things that you want to get good at. You want to think about them in terms of, how long are they going to take to do them? How much energy is it going to take? These things that you're trying to do every day, they can't be so brutal that you actually can't follow through with doing them every day. I do think that when you set out to do a task daily, like I've been running every day, it's been really helpful. I did the same thing with walking years ago. Okay, let me see if I can do 2 10-minute walks every day. As simple and as low-hanging fruit, as much of an underhand pitch as that is, it might make you feel good about yourself. You feel good about yourself, you start to build momentum. You build momentum and you start to build more and more habits that you can ingrain each and every day. Those habits start to become part of your character. And now you're the guy that runs 20 miles. Now you're the crazy uncle or crazy person in the family that exercises all the time because you developed these habits. You took your time developing the habits.
Andrew, do you beat yourself up at all about not going to jiu-jitsu on certain days anymore?
Yes. Not that bad though, especially when I was hurt or when I was like not able to do everything. I had a hard time waking up early, where I typically wouldn't have a hard time waking up early, because I was so excited that I would jump out of bed before the bed alarm would go off.
Yeah.
When I knew I wasn't going to roll, it was like, meh, meh, the bed starts vibrating, and I would just roll over and I turn it off. And there's many times where I would just fall right back asleep. That's when I would beat myself up, because I'm like, hey, asshole, you said you were going to go to jiu-jitsu to drill. You set the alarm, you had your gi in the bag, and everything was ready to go, and you hit snooze and you fell back asleep. Like, that's unacceptable. Not the fact of like not going to jiu-jitsu. That would have been fine, but I told myself that I was going to go, and I didn't follow through. So that's where I beat myself up. if I said, you know what, dude, you got to listen to what everybody, literally everybody is saying and just take some time off and heal, I would have been like, you know what? Okay, yeah, we're going to take tomorrow off and then see how we feel the next day. I would have been totally fine. But no, I was like, I'm going to go. And I went against my word. And so that's where I beat myself up because I'm like, I'm better than that. And so that really ate at me. And that's why I was like, it made things even worse for trying to get back because I'm like, I got to make up for these, you know, for letting myself down. And that did not work. And so like, that's something that I'm learning also, you know, it's like I'm hitting some bumps in the road and yeah, so that was pretty bad. That was like a weird cycle of things happening, but that's when I did beat myself up.
Yes, things just take X amount of time.
Mhm.
You know, like let's just say it takes 10,000 hours to be halfway decent at jujitsu. You know,
To still get tapped by good white belts.
I mean, the 10,000 hours, 10,000 reps thing is something I think people have brought up before, but you can't change that around. You can't like work out twice every day. Like you kind of can if the workouts are different enough that you're able to recover from them. But if you're kind of constantly in a beat up state, then it's not going to work because the workouts need to have a certain input every time you do them, no matter what kind of workout we're talking about. And so if it's going to take a lot of hours, it's going to always just take a lot of hours. It's going to take X amount of hours to get great. And it doesn't matter how you really slice it or which way you try to do it. It's just going to take a certain amount of time.
Mm-hmm. Does any of this change for a diet? Because we've been talking about, you know, physical things or even, I guess, entrepreneurial things. That's a really hard word to say. Somebody is like trying to improve by fixing up their diet and then they beat themselves up for having, I don't know, a Chipotle burrito or something that's not on the plan. Does any of this advice change for someone on their nutrition?
I think it's very similar. I think it's just don't be in a rush. Whatever you have in your head is probably not going to be that miraculous anyway. I mean, there's some people out there that are in tremendous shape. And if you're trying to like get in tremendous shape and be competitive, for you to be an anomaly, for you to be in a category of like looking like you're made of something different than everybody else, it's going to take a long time. It's going to take years and take decades. Like it's going to take a lot of training. It's going to take a lot of discipline with your nutrition. So no matter how you slice it, no matter how hard you go on a particular day or for a particular couple of weeks, in the grand scheme of things, it's really not going to matter a ton. So I think it's best to just recognize that this whole thing's going to take some time, and I just want to be better than I was yesterday. How do right now let's say somebody wants to be like 10 to 12% body fat. They just have a goal, right? They want to be that percentage body fat. And right now they're like at like 18 or something. Maybe currently at 18, maybe they have a bunch of bad habits. Okay, well, let's leave those bad habits behind. Let's work on getting rid of those. But we don't need to be like crazy meticulous, and we don't need to just eat chicken breast and broccoli, because then you get into what I talk about often as well, which is, and then what? Okay, cool, nice trick. Cool, you got abs. That's great. For how long? For 2 weeks? For 3 weeks? For a photo shoot? Or would you rather have this thing work out to where you do it over the course of maybe like a year? And now you look awesome. And now you're going to kind of stay there for as long as you can figure it out.
We should also, like, when it comes to nutrition, we should look at it as a skill. I don't think that, you look at that as a skill because you're like, okay, well, this is just what I need to eat and this is what I need to do for my diet. But at the end of the day, like, sticking to whatever diet or whatever eating pattern you have has you consistently making the correct decisions every single day. When you're rolling jujitsu, when you get tapped, it's because you made the wrong decision somewhere. And you're learning a skill so that you can make the right decision so that you don't get submitted. It's the same thing when you have the instinct to go somewhere after you get off of work, or to eat this certain food when you're watching TV, or to eat this when you wake up in the morning, or to have this midnight snack. Those are bad habits or the wrong skills for your nutrition. And if you look at you developing better nutrition and your better diet habits as a skill, you'll be okay to give yourself the grace to make mistakes. Like, I'm not saying that you should make the mistakes on purpose, but I mean, when you make a mistake, then you can assess, okay, why did I wake up and why did I go to my freezer and have some Ben and Jerry's? Well, you can look at those decisions and be like, well, it was in the house. I've heard I probably shouldn't have it in the house, so I don't make that decision. It's literally a skill thing. And when you do make those mistakes, you'll be okay to be like, okay, I know how to fix this. It takes time though. So you shouldn't expect to be perfect with a diet within your first 30 days or 60 days. You'll have some hiccups here and there, but just like any skill you're trying to build, you will get better at it over time. You will make better decisions over time. And that's why for all of us here, we don't really need to think about our diet anymore because we've developed that skill over a long period of time.
I think that's great. I've never thought of it as a skill because, at least for myself, I see, maybe most of us actually see diet as more X's and O's type of thing. If I deprive myself of this for X amount of time, then I'll drop X amount of weight, instead of if I develop the skill to understand I should probably eat this before I eat that, then it'll equal that body that I'm hoping to get. That's really cool. I like that.
Yeah, people suck at diet. People suck with their food.
People don't know how to eat.
Well, a lot of people are white belts and they're trying to do like black belt moves when it comes to nutrition. And it's like, you got no business for even messing with this. Just chill out, just relax. See if you can make some small improvements over time, and that should get you better results rather than just trying to dive all in on something that you're not good at yet. It's gonna take you time. Want to take us on out of here, Andrew?
Yeah. So who was it? G
Money.
G Money. Thank you for that comment. Sincerely appreciate that. Make sure you guys are
G Money.
G Money. Make sure you guys are dropping comments so that way we can do another podcast just like this one based off of your guys' questions. So drop those comments down below, and please like this video and subscribe if you guys are not subscribed already. For everything podcast related, it's over at powerproject.live. Make sure you guys are following the podcast at MB Power Project on Instagram, TikTok, and Twitter. My Instagram, TikTok, and Twitter is at I am Andrew Z. Nsima.
Nsima Inyang on YouTube, and Nsima Inyang on TikTok and Twitter. Check out the Discord. People going hard in there too, and you can ask questions there also. Mark.
I'm at Mark's Millie Bell. Strength is never a weakness. Weakness never strength. Catch you guys later. Bye.